Hey guys, happy Friday. It is an ugly Friday in the Midwest, but I'm starting early. It's a little bit early. It is Friday. Welcome to the Midwest and welcome to the podcast. Just a few things before we get started, just to update everybody. If you're in the Patreon club, your the guided sessions have just been posted, and this month I hope you enjoyed them. I really did try to. I've been working with a few different techniques, and I've been incorporating them into the sessions. So happy Friday and happy November to all of the Patreons. And thank you so much for all the Patreon members who are part of the Breath Club. I really do. It's a huge part of what keeps this all going and what keeps me going. And so I really do appreciate it. Just so you guys know, I am going to be changing the structure of the Patreon soon. And basically that means I'm adding new features for Patreon members, especially for those of you guys who have been so good to me, especially with the higher level subscribers. Of course, guys, just so you know, as far as the $5 a month subscription, which is ridiculously cheap and awesome. I'm not, I'm saying I'm very thankful for all the $5 subscribers. That's not going to change. It's going to stay the same. We're doing every month. You get two of the pre-recorded breath sessions. And these are works of art, really. That as far as that's how I look at them. It's my art form to create these sessions. And this month, actually, one of the sessions, I've been working on a very specific guided meditation and breathing session that I'm going to be using in my retreats that I'm going to be doing. And I'm going to be talking today about those retreats coming up. I've got a lot of really cool retreats coming up, and most of them have not yet been announced. So I'm going to give you some insider information on some of those things coming up in the future. But as far as Patreon goes, if you're in the $10 or $25 level, there's going to be some changes, especially the $25 level. Those of you guys who have been supporting me that heavily, I feel like you deserve a little more of my time. So we're going to do some, for those of you guys that are in the $25 a month level, I will be giving you an hour as a group. We're going to be doing a Zoom that you can just talk to me. We all hang out. We ask questions, any questions you'd like. Anything I can answer within 1 hour, that is going to be for all of the everybody that's in the $25 line. So that should be taking place after the first of the year, but I do plan on trying to nudge that into the December thing as well. Some retreat information. Let's see. That's my Patreon info. If you haven't already signed up for Patreon, you can go to my website, jessecoomer.com, and there's a little link you can click for my Patreon club. Also, if you haven't seen some of my samples, if you're like, I don't know if I really want to get in on all these guided breathwork sessions, actually tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I am releasing another one of my guided breathwork sessions. If you're in the Breath Club, you get all access to everything that I've done a full year before everybody else. You get no commercials and no blurbs or anything like that. It's all uninterrupted. Well, it's not like the video tonight is going to be interrupted, but anyway, you get all that for the Patreon club, and that's just $5 a month. And of course, there's more benefits as you go up on the tiers. Retreats. Are there going to be? Oh, hey, by the way, good afternoon, M. Peter. Nice to have you here, Lee and Stephen Miller. Any retreats in the UK? Right now, I'm sorry, I don't have anything overseas. This has been a kind of a crazy time, and those kinds of retreats are the ones that I do need a lot of advanced stuff as far as advanced planning and things like that. So I haven't gotten a chance to do any advanced planning anywhere out of the United States. But that is something that as things are looking better and better every day, at least I don't know. It's hard to say. But I believe I have fervent belief that things are getting better and better every day. I would not be surprised if I get over to your side of the pond before too terribly long. But I do believe I'm going to have some things in Mexico. I might have something in Mexico in the near future. So I'm starting to branch out a little bit further away from the Midwest. And so it won't be long, Stephen. You just wait. Let's see. I do have a retreat in Wisconsin for those guys who are in the United States. This is a fantastic, fantastic resort. It's Sand Valley Resort. It's normally a golf course. And so we're doing a Wim Hof method weekend there. My partner, James Stewart, he's just fantastic guy. We do Jesse and James all over the country, and we're going to be doing a Wim Hof method retreat in Wisconsin. It's at a place called Sand Valley Resort, and it is January 7th, 8th, and 9th. And so that is going to be pretty cool. It's basically, it is a deep dive into Wim Hof method in one of the most beautiful places in the Midwest. This area, they call it Sand Valley because it doesn't really look like the Midwest. Like, it kind of looks like you should find a ocean somewhere around there. It's a ton of, like, a lot of sand, hence the name, I guess. And it apparently the glaciers back in the last ice age, the glaciers pushed this big sand deposit to this area, and we get to benefit from it. So there's all these sand dunes and all these places to go hiking in the snow. We're going to go take ice dips in a frozen over lake. It's always super cold, especially around January. It's going to be perfect. So that's January 7th to January 9th. I will say that if you want to get in on that one, you will need to call soon. And I'm trying to think what that number is off the top of my head. I need to check real quick what that number is, and I will give that to you if you want to make a phone call. It's also what we talked about last week. James Stewart was on the show last week, and so we covered that last week. Let's see here. The phone number to call if you'd like to get in on this, and you'll want to do it soon because I think it's filling up. It's 833-891-0394. I'm going to put that here in the notes here on the side. Let's see, 891 and 0394. 0394. There it is. That's the number for Sand Valley. They're doing all the ticketing for me and James. And so they'll take care of you there. Everything is included. The meals are included. They're fantastic. There's like the rooms are really awesome. So it's one of those things you literally just show up and then breathe, freeze, get into mindset, step into your strength. It's just awesome. So hey, Papa Geek, Skull. You know, I don't have beer handy. So I picked up my wife from the airport last night around midnight, and I still had to teach at the university today. And so I've been kind of relying on some caffeine today, probably more than I should. But hey, nobody's perfect. Hey, so basically, that is my upcoming retreat. I'm going to be announcing all of my workshops in the United States very soon. Actually, if you go on to the Wim Hof Method Facebook page, I have a lot of Wim Hof Method workshops coming up. I'm going to be in Nashville. We haven't actually hammered this down, but the plan is to be in Nashville, Tennessee in March. I'll be in Indianapolis, Indiana in April, and I'll be in Chicago, Illinois in May. And those will be workshops. And all three of those will be 2 workshops. So the way I like to do it, I like to go to a town, go and then kind of hang out there for the weekend. And so I'll do a Wim Hof Method workshop, like a fundamentals workshop on day 1. Fundamentals workshops are where I teach the basics of the method. Okay, this is how to do the breathing technique the right way. And what I normally have to do is I kind of have to reteach people how to breathe. A lot of people start practicing just kind of on their own, which, hey, there's no shame in that. But a lot of times what happens is it'll develop into breathing breath mechanics malfunctioning or just poor breathing patterns. And so we cover how to take a breath, exactly how all that should work, how your breath mechanism works. And then we get into, okay, this is how to do the Wim Hof Method breathing technique. It's more than just you do this many times and then you do this, you hold for this long. we want to make sure everybody really gets the best out of it. And then, of course, we cover why a lot of this stuff works. We cover kind of the theory behind it. And then we get into, hey, we take an ice bath. And for a lot of people, this is their first ice bath experience. And it is just an awesome experience. So the fundamentals, I'll go into a town on Saturday. I'll do a fundamentals workshop. That's a full day. You show up. I usually try to make it around 11 in the morning. So 11 a.m. That way you can sleep in Saturday. You can have breakfast if you want to. And then we have a late lunch. Usually it's over by like 4 local time, 4:30. So it's kind of a full day workshop. And then day 2, for those who are brave and those who want to really dig deep into the Wim Hof method, I'll do an advanced techniques workshop. And on those, we'll do what we call power breathing. So that's more of the DMT style stuff that Wim, as far as the Wim Hof method, Wim showed me that's one of his styles for DMT activation. We do brown fat activation. So a lot of people don't know that there's actually a brown fat activation technique, right? So you'll get into the cold, your brown fat will act automatically, but there's what we call brown fat activation technique. We also call it the inner fire breathing technique. We don't really necessarily at this point understand all of the facets or why it works, but it's one of the techniques that we know, and I've demonstrated it so many times that can actually, by doing the technique, it raises your body temperature, and it's really amazing. And then, of course, we do ice bathing, but on an advanced workshop, we do what I like to call the ice games. So on the ice games, it's more than just, okay, you get into an ice bath, great, you get out, congrats. You can do that, but I have my own games that I like to play in the ice whenever it comes to an advanced class. So in order to go to the advanced class, you need to at least have a pretty good working understanding of the Wim Hof method, or somewhat of a start of a practice. What a lot of people do is they'll go to Saturday and Sunday and just make it a Wim Hof method weekend, 2 workshops combined. And you can go right now. The only place to get those, I have Eventbrite and I have it on the Wim Hof method platform. You can go to those. Those are my 2 ticketing sites right now. Very, very soon, I'll be updating my website. My web developer guy, he's aghast at the poor state of my website right now. So I apologize. If you go to my website right now, you can see pretty much all of the events I've done this year. And then it suddenly stops in July, because in July I started doing private events. I've just been doing private events all year after July. So anyway, so that's Wim Hof method stuff. And then also this coming year, I'm also putting together, I'm continuing to do the breath mastery course. So actually, Papa Geek says, thanks for yesterday. Yesterday we completed the 6-week breath mastery course. And this is a course that's absolutely live. And hey guys, by the way, I will get to the topic of today, but hey, I started a little early. And plus I just want to cover all the stuff that's going on. There's a lot of things going on, and I'm excited. I'm excited to share. And so once I get through that, we'll talk. We're going to talk about the problem of purpose for the modern human, because I want to get into this. This is something actually I almost have I've got about a half a book written about this, and I want to see what you guys think. It's something I haven't really touched on in a while, and I am a university professor. And so I get a lot of young people, and they're looking for their purpose in life. So I've kind of put together some of the reasons why I think we have problems finding our purpose in life. And sometimes, the questions that revolve around that. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. But back to the retreats. I'm excited to tell you that this year I will be doing retreats around all sorts of forms of breath work. One, actually, February 3rd is going to be the start of the next cohort of the 6-week breath mastery class. This is a live class, and this covers every aspect of breathing. It's not just this technique or that method or this or that. Basically what I do is I explain how all breath work works. So the underpinnings of all breath work, I go over all that, and I give you basically everything you need in order to really construct your own techniques, if you want to, your own practice, and how to measure your own body's response to certain techniques and to all techniques, really. So it's a lot of fun, and it's enormous amount of information. it adds up to 12 classroom hours. So you spend 12 hours with me over 6 weeks. There's homework. And then, of course, you get to keep all of the recordings, but it's live too. So it's like this, only it's straight up about, I have a curriculum and I teach you everything you need to know about breathing. So that is starting February 3rd. And the sign up is on, I believe it's up on my website. If it's not, it will be soon. And actually you can check YouTube. I've also got some stuff on YouTube about how that works. So guys, so let's see, I think that, and then also last but not least, I'm going to be doing other workshops this year. We've got the Convergence coming up. It's probably going to be in July again. A lot of workshops that are about breath work or about other forms of human performance and excellence and the philosophy of life. And this is something that, I think ultimately, there comes a point whenever you have to decide, why am I doing all this? Right? Why is it that we're trying to stay healthy? Why are we trying to do these things? Obviously we want to live a longer, healthier life, but what is the point? What are we searching for? Where does it all go? And so that is what I'm going to be doing retreats on this year as well. I did some retreats on it last year. I'm going to be opening up some of these things to the public. And so you can rest assured there's going to be certain, essentially what I like to do is I like to focus on what I call the modern human condition. And I guess this can be a segue into the topic of today's podcast, which is finding purpose in the modern world. So the modern humans search for purpose. And ultimately, if you've read I have a book on breathwork. It's called A Practical Guide to Breathwork. I describe what I consider to be the modern human condition. And of course, the human condition is this kind of like this list of all of the things that basically make our human experience. So when and this is what all music is about, all drama, comedians, the jokes they make are about the human condition. It's these things that we all share as humans, and we can observe them. We all experience them. And the thing is that we share this with every other human that's ever been alive, even back to the beginning, right? If you go back to the Epic of Gilgamesh, in Kindu and Gilgamesh had relationship issues, much like friends and enemies have today. And so there's a lot we can say we share with all other humans throughout all of history. But my point, the thing that one of the cases that I make in my breathwork book is that we have a different situation in the modern world. So modern humans, we still have human condition, but now we have this thing that I like to call the modern human condition. And what that is essentially the fact that we're all dealing now with a disconnection between our environment and our physiology and our psychology. We're getting signals all the time that conflict with how nature really worked with our nervous system, with our autonomic nervous system specifically, but all of our aspects of our physiology and psychology. And of course, if you guys are fans of the channel, you know that I do heat training and I do cold training. And the reason why heat training and cold training are so beneficial is for many reasons. But one of the big reasons is that our bodies are actually made to endure these variations in temperature. But whenever we don't put those stressors on our body, then we're not engaging with the way the body actually works. And so the body's like, hey, it's funny. You notice how it's always the same temperature? I wake up in this temperature controlled box, and then I take a temperature controlled car to a temperature controlled building to do work. And then and so what we found is that over time, we've realized that this has made us less healthy. This has made us actually sicker, weaker people. And of course, we recognize this. I think the most common form of this is we recognize it with this exercise thing, right? So whenever it comes to exercise, like even just the word exercise is kind of a newer invention, because like if you were to go back, it's just like 200 years, 300 years, it wasn't used in the way that we use it today. Like if you say, I'm going to go exercise, we understand I am going to go use my arms and legs, probably in a gym or a physical fitness pursuit. But that's just not something we saw in the vast majority of human history. So we don't share a lot of the experiences when it comes to our physical and psychological health in the same way that all of other humans did throughout history. So that's what I call the modern human condition. We have a disconnection. And as a result, we have a lot of problems. We don't understand these sources of anxiety and illness and sickness. And we're starting to understand these things, but the vast majority of us, of course, we don't. And the interesting thing is, we as human beings, and this comes into, I think, the problem of purpose. We as human beings, we've done a really good job of solving problems. And if you think about that, it's something to be celebrated, just all of the accomplishments that humanity has had, right? Let's be fair. You take a species that, for all we know, we started with, naked running around in, the jungle, on the Serengeti somewhere, and we've gone to the moon, right? We can discover exoplanets. We're communicating across miles or kilometers. But we have to kind of say, I think it's important to at least say, hey, that is something to marvel at, that a species can really use its brain to the degree that it can actually change its environment to such a great degree. It's something to marvel at. I think oftentimes we look at the negative, and I'm going to highlight the negative here in a minute, but I don't think it's good to constantly just berate and bash on humans because they produced an incredible change to the environment. I think there's a lot of a lot of praise in the fact that ultimately it was always in pursuit of living, right? It's like, if you think about this, a lot of the progress that we did, it wasn't in some kind of an ill pursuit. Like for instance, we developed farming. That was really the biggest changer. That was a huge game changer. We went from a hunter-gatherer society to about 11,000 years ago, give or take. We became farmers and agrarians, and that changed the way we looked at everything, because we no longer were just traveling around chasing after food and foraging and things. Now suddenly we could stay in one place, and as a result, we could free up a lot of time to think about, okay, well, this is interesting. I'm able to harvest crops. I'm able to do this new device, this new invention we call irrigation. And as a result, we're able to think of, well, let's see, what are other ways that I can make my life better, that I can make my children's lives better, that I can be safer, right? We developed ways to keep out the wolves. We developed ways to even hunt and gather more effectively. And so I think it's important to at least acknowledge that it's not like we were trying to destroy the planet. It's not like we were trying to, burn down the world. It was always a matter of like, well, we need to survive, so let's make these changes and it will improve our ability to survive. But over time, and especially since the industrial age, we've changed our environment to the degree that we are no longer living in the environment that we were originally evolved to live in. And as a result of that, we have a massive disconnection. And it's one of these things where we had these problems, right? We had a calorie problem. And if you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, okay, I'm going to go old school, guys. So I'm going to go back to your freshman year of college. Freshman year of college, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? we have to ensure physical safety first, right? So, okay, great. Once we do that, that's a huge issue. That's a huge chore, especially if you're this naked monkey walking around, just to ensure basic physical safety. Especially, we weren't really equipped. Look at this. I mean, I mean, I do have. I mean, I am carrying a gun in both hands. You know, I admire the gun show, but like ultimately, we had to use our wits to be able to survive. And so, in order to do that, it's an incredible thing, right? Um, you're just arriving on Naked Monkey, Bryce says. Yeah, it's Naked Monday, Friday, everybody. Naked Mondays, Naked Monkey's here. There's a naked monkey there. But ultimately, like if you think about that, what happened was, and this is this is a theory that something I've been writing about over the past couple of years, and I have yet to publish this. I'm still kind of working on my ideas and what I really think about it. But an enormous amount of early humans were trying to solve a very fundamental problem. And that is the first part of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? They were trying to solve the safety problem, the safety within nature, right? The safety from the elements, safety from predators. And just think about this. This is interesting. I think this is something that when we think about developing purpose in our lives and how we find purpose, those early humans found purpose in finding ways to make their family safe, right? Finding ways, like an enormous amount of purpose for their life, right? When they got up, they felt like, okay, I have a real purpose. I'm needed because there is a tribe that needs me. And, in the early days, maybe it was just, I have to hold this spear to make sure that my family, my tribe is protected. That is my purpose. And how rewarding is that? Guess what? Whenever I get up and I go to work, I feel like I'm doing something incredibly important for all of my family and all of civilization. I get an enormous amount of self-worth out of that because I know how important this is. And I'm solving a real problem that everyone has, right? But I think eventually that problem was solved. Like when it comes to basic safety, we don't really have these problems in the modern world anymore, right? We have new, I guess, safety problems as far as you might get ran over by a car, or you might, get electrocuted if you put your fingers in the socket or something like that. But we have now really, and of course, there's even terminology around how there's the kids that they just grow up so soft because they have the padded playgrounds. I don't know if my friends around the world, I don't know if you're familiar with that term, but they talk about padded playgrounds because we make it almost too safe for children, right? We make it so safe that no one has to worry about safety anymore. And so, okay, great. So there's part of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, part of the hierarchy of needs of being a human being that was solved for us. It was already solved by the people thousands of years ago. And thank you, ancestors, right? Thank you so much. I'm not here to complain, but I will say that was a way to find purpose in life that we no longer seem to have quite so much. Now, I'm not saying that there's not a great need for people to keep other people safe. Okay. So okay. And this is to the dads. Okay. Here's to the dads out here. You hear something in the middle of the night. What goes on in your head? And I'll tell you what happens in my head. Like if my wife hears something in the middle of the night, first of all, it's like, okay, Jesse, you're the one that's going to have to go out there and get shot or killed or maimed. Right? It's like, and like I'll wake up in the middle of the night and like the thing is my adrenaline, I suddenly become Thor. I'm like, and one time my neighbor found some random stray dog and he knocked on the door. I had gone to bed early that night because I'm just going to admit this on this YouTube live with my tribe here, guys. If I get to go to bed early, I call that a win. I don't have a problem with getting to go to bed early. I think that's a win for me, and and I'm very happy to catch extra sleep. That happened whenever I became a father. Before I became a father, I was like, I can always sleep in. Then I realized the kids don't let you do that. At least they don't yet. When they're little, they don't let you sleep in. But anyway, there's a certain degree of like, yes, we have to wake up. We have to be, I feel like I'm going to go protect the family. And there's a great degree of protection that we do have to, we feel like, okay, we want to stand up for our neighbors. But I feel like so much of that obligation we relegate. We don't even take responsibility for that anymore. We say, well, there's police officers out there, or that's someone else's responsibility. That's not my responsibility. That's someone else's responsibility. They can go do that. Hey, Rusty's here. How's it going, Rusty? Why did you post a phone number? Isn't that your number, Rusty? I said for a good time call. Did you call the number? That is for Wisconsin, Rusty. Yeah, that's for the Sand Valley resort thing that's coming up in January. So as he said, got to be honest, I wouldn't want to mess with you when you're mad. Well, I'm just saying, when I'm angry, or at least whenever I'm like in a fight or flight state. So I didn't tell you the end of the story. So we used to have a neighbor, and he was a police officer, and he found a random stray dog in our neighborhood, and I had gone to bed early. And so he comes to the door, and he's got this police officer like light that he's kind of putting in the window. And I didn't see him. I just saw this light kind of going around. And here I was just like in my underwear. Cause I'm just going to let you know, that's how I roll. And like, I had a bat in one hand, right? Every muscle in my body, like it went to full flex. I was like, yeah, I was ready to go to Valhalla, guys. I mean, it was full Viking mode. And so I'm like, I answer the door. I'm like, what do you want? Like, I was like, and here's this police officer with this tiny stray dog. And he's like, is this your dog? And I was like, no. I had so much adrenaline at the time. And it was just one of those things where it's kind of like, who is this with this light? It was kind of a weird way to come to my door. He's kind of doing this light like in the door. And I was like, that's kind of weird. I understand if somebody's just knocking at the door, and still that's going to be kind of unsettling sometimes if it wakes me up in the middle of the night. I think it was like 11 at night. I had gone to bed like probably like at 9:30. I was going to bed early at that night because I was like, I was exhausted. And I tell you what, guys, like I said, if I can get to bed a little early, I'm going to take it. Now I know what some of you guys are going to talk about, right? What about your circadian rhythm, Jesse? Well, hey man, okay. Sometimes I just call that sleeping in backwards. I'm going to go to bed a little bit early. Anyway, so he's like, the next day I kind of felt bad for like having my bat. I was ready to strike. I kind of felt bad. And so I Facebooked him. Like, I don't know how well you guys know your neighbors, but we didn't really know this guy very well. I never really got to know my neighbors when I lived in that neighborhood. And so I was like, hey man, you kind of scared the hell out of me. Sorry about pulling, a bat on you. Yeah, exactly. I was about to say today's a good day to die. Now that was going to, I'm just saying it was one of those things where I felt as though, I don't know. I was also just kind of, I don't know, maybe you wake me up in the middle of the night, and I got to admit, guys, that if you wake me up in the middle of the night, if you take my sleep from me, if you take my sleep away, we've got a problem starting off. Just from the very second I open my eyes, if you're taking my sleep away from me, oh really? Is that how you want to start? Is that really what you want? So I don't know about you guys, but that's and Peter says totally with you on that. Going to sleep early is always a yes, thank you. Absolutely. So V Thomas, somewhere over the rainbow. Somewhere. So anyway, but coming back to, I guess, this, I don't know, guys. This is what I live to help. I really love helping others with breathwork and stuff, but I'm always constantly thinking about, like, trying to figure life out. I'm trying to figure stuff out, guys. And I appreciate you being here. I appreciate your comments, and I appreciate you just listening, if nothing else. And hey, guys, if you have a question, if there's something else you'd rather me talk to you guys about, super chats are open, and of course you can ask questions. But I'm just saying this is something that's been on my mind a lot lately. I've written, like I said, about a half of a book on this. And I'm literally calling it the problem of purpose, because I think humans are very good at solving problems. And the problem that happens when you solve problems for another person is they don't get the benefit of solving the problem. I'm just going to make the long story short. I was going to go the long way on this, but I'll say the thesis first. There's my thesis. I'm giving you my thesis first, and then I'll explain what I mean. So I think that when you take all the problems away from a person, you don't give them the benefit of finding their purpose through solving problems. And this is what we've done out of love, and not just out of love, but out of progress, right? I think in human history, like for safety, for the most part, right? Like, first of all, I've never actually, even though I've been woke up in the middle of the night many times and I grabbed my bat. Also, guys, I don't just have, actually, I'm not going to tell you what weapons I have. Okay. I shouldn't say that, right? So, but my bat is my first go-to. That's the one I know that nobody's going to accidentally shoot themselves with, or cut themselves with, or smash themselves. I know a bat, I can just kind of put it there. I'm like, And the thing is, it's not like I live in a neighborhood that would be like, oh man, you're going to need to be well armed because every night it's going to be a battle. It's just, it's just like, I think it's a matter of, there's something inside of us. There's a certain instinct that's just kind of like suspect. Anyway, but when you take certain things away from a population, certain problems away, you do give them the opportunity to move on to the next, I guess, hierarchy of need. Of course, calories, first you need physical safety and shelter, and then you need calories. You need to be able to eat. And the funny thing is about the way we eat is that a lot of it is linked to survival, of course. It's not just calories, right? We know that there are certain things, and there are certain calories, there are certain macros and certain nutrients that will, for instance, certain macronutrients like for instance, a fat will have 9 calories, whereas a carbohydrate or a protein will have 4 calories. So we are programmed to look for fats. Fats are tasty and delicious, and they make us happy. And of course, we produce hormones out of fats. And so that's awesome. That's wonderful. And throughout history, it's like, okay, give me the fattened part of the meat, or give me the one thing that's always blown my mind as a meat eater. Okay. So, and I'm willing. And if you guys want to talk about going plant-based, I am going more plant-based. I'm in a process of transitioning to far more plant-based diet. I do 2 days a week now. That's just 100% plant-based. Every breakfast I eat now, and almost every lunch I eat now is plant-based too. So I've really made a huge strides. But as a meat eater, I know that the fattiest cuts of meat are the most delicious. And I've tried a lot of soy boy. Let's see. So Ryan says, I definitely don't want to hear today is a good day to die from the other side of a door. Exactly. I mean, now, that I've got also, I was going to say, I didn't want to let everybody know I have a batolith. Okay. Right. I'm teasing. I really don't. I don't. Every time I see your picture here, though, it's with the Star Trek thing. And so I have to, and that's a Klingon thing. They say that a lot. Let's see. That is a pants ruining moment whenever you hear today is a good day to die. And it's like, ah. So, so basically, so yeah, the fatty cuts of meat, I mean, we all intuitively understand that those are the tastiest parts of the meat. Now, what's also interesting though, is that, the micronutrients are in the organ meats. So really the organ meats are prized by animals. That's what they're like, let's go for the organ meats first. That's actually the more life sustaining things. But, and if you look at our ancient ancestors, especially, for instance, Papa Geek, our Viking ancestors, much of our ability to live in colder climates came from eating, for instance, the cod liver. Like they would have cod, and the fish, right? So fishing, and so we would get a lot of vitamin D from cod liver oil because it's high in vitamin D. And so because for those of you guys who don't know, vitamin D is what we get from sunshine, and there's not a lot of sunshine in those parts of the world where the Vikings live. And so let's see here. But let's see. That's like having 2 days a week off smoking. Well, okay. If you're going 2 days a week off of smoking, if you're a smoker and you're taking 2 days a week off of smoking, well, that's better than not taking 2 days a week off of smoking. So if that's what you're doing, that's awesome. I would say to progress, continue. And there's a lot of discussion that people can have as far as like, the meat versus no meat discussion. But that's not exactly the topic that I want to get on. But I'm a person. I'm an omnivore currently. I don't plan on ever being like I'll never eat meat again. But I do see the value in being more plant-based, and I'm making strides. I think progress is always good. Progress. It's always progress over performance. Like, and what I mean by that is like, if I'm moving forward, that's the goal. It's not like, what am I doing today? Can I judge myself based off of everything I'm doing today? No, I'm moving toward a goal. So, anyway, so basically, where was I going with this? Okay, so the nutrition part. So the problem is, the modern world, we've solved a lot of these problems with calories. And the way we solve these problems was by using, basically, the brain says, okay, if it's sweet, we want that because we want sugars, because sugars are rare. We need those for quick, really quick energy, and they're usually attached to micronutrients, and especially some of those micronutrients that we don't find in every other thing out there. So awesome. The brain is wired, okay, for sweets. It's not just one part of your brain. Even if you cannot taste anything, even if you're completely, unable to taste anything, you have the nodose ganglia right here. And the nodose ganglia will actually encourage you, even if you can't taste it. It says, hey, whatever you're eating, keep eating that, because it can detect that there's calories in there from sugars. And so, okay, so we're looking for that. Well, we love salty. And this is one of those things where we have to have some ionic sodium in our bodies. Okay, so we're gonna so what do we do? Let's create entire food groups just based around sweet and salty, right? We have candy, and just think about this. And I briefly touch on this in my book, A Practical Guide to Breathwork. But just think about, if our Neolithic ancestors, if you were to bring them into today's world and take them to this invention called a candy store, right? Not only have we figured out how to make full food groups out of nothing but sugar, but there's varieties. Okay, everybody always hates, what is it, the candy corn from Halloween. You guys know what I'm talking about, candy corn? Candy corn is like, if you were to take that to one of our Neolithic ancestors, they'd be like, wow, this is ambrosia. This is the food of the gods. How did you find this? This is amazing. And we have, kids who say, the problem is we give our kids bags full of sugar, basically. I mean, if you think about how much sugar that the average person takes in, it's not a huge wonder why type 2 diabetes and cancer are just rampant in the modern world. And again, this is the modern human condition. We have solved problems, right? We have these desires, we have these wants, with these impulses that are built-in mechanisms, built-in programming. And we say, okay, how do I get what I want? Well, what do I want? Well, I like salty. I like sweet. Well, how do I get more of those? And it started off simple. It started off saying, well, maybe I figure out what trees have apples and oranges on them. Or, maybe I figure out what trees to look for whenever I'm out foraging, or hey, maybe we will plant. If you take one of these seeds, maybe I can plant one of these things. And then we figured out with sugar beets and sugar cane how to extrapolate just the sugar. And then we're like, well, okay, cool. Let's add the sugar to confection, or not confection. Let's add the sugar to our baking, or this or that. And so we figured these things out, and it's not necessarily bad. I mean, we oftentimes we talk about as if it's some kind of morality thing, but what it really is just we've solved this problem that we feel like, well, I want more of that. Let's get it. And by doing that, we've created other problems, right? We've not really solved the problem, because the real problem was a survival problem. It wasn't really a getting sweets problem. It was a survival problem. There's my dog. I don't know if you heard him. He yawned, really, really kind of a cute yawn. My dog is like 1,000 years old. And his name is Bernie, and he is afraid of thunderstorms, and I think there's a thunderstorm coming, and so he's a little nervous right now. It's all right, buddy. Yeah, he's kind of pacing the floor right now. So, but anyway, by solving a problem, we've created other problems, because we weren't really solving the original problem, which is nutrition, which is the actual stuff of life. We're like, well, I just want the sweet part. And of course, we've even done this with a lot of other things, but we've basically removed the problem from the person. And as a result, I wonder what it does to us, and by the time, you're born in the year 2021, there's not a lot of survival problems left. And then you're kind of given this thing where you're surviving. You do have to survive, but it's an environment that's nothing like what your species originally was designed to survive in. So it's stuff I think about. These are my ponderings. And of course, as I'm thinking about these things, I do wonder if that plays a huge role in when we think about finding purpose for our lives. Do we need struggle? Do we need, problems to solve in order to really figure ourselves out? And I've got to say, the times when I have grown the most in my life, right? The times whenever I have become myself the most, or really become stronger, it's not during times when there weren't any problems, right? And I'm sure you guys can relate to this. It's not during times whenever there was nothing bad happening. Everything that's ever made me stronger was either something bad that happened to me, or something bad that happened because of my actions that I had to figure out how to get around. And I've shared with this audience many times that I was addicted to opioids in my life, and that was just a lot of fun. And that was all my fault. Like, it is, I'd love to blame it on other people. I can say why I got into those. I can say why. I can tell you what problems I thought I was trying to solve by, but it wasn't anybody's decision other than my own that put me there. And so, I wonder if I had, and it's funny how it's like, I wonder if I had actually been struggling with something that was a real struggle, if I would have reached out to doing drugs like I did. But I don't know. And also, I got to say, I feel younger now than I did back then. Let's see how's it going, guys. It's Friday. Not to end that on a negative, on a sour note, because hey, that was a long time ago, and I am turning 41 years old. 41 years old. I'll be turning 41 next month, and hopefully, okay. So whenever I turn 41, I will be getting back from an incredibly important week of my life. I cannot really reveal a whole lot about it right now, or at least I really don't want to reveal a lot about it right now, but there is about to be a huge thing, a really awesome thing that I'm going to be sharing with this audience after I come back. And literally I fly back on the day before my birthday. So, and I know that I've got a very special beer coming to me from a very special Viking friend that I'm going to hopefully give a cheers. And that's on a Saturday. So maybe I'll do a live on a Saturday. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I got to say, on my birthday, normally my wife kind of like directs me and tells me what I have to do. Last year was a Friday, so she's at work right now. so I can get away with Fridays during this hour. And she would be cool with me doing this live. But on my birthday, like I turned 40 during like the year of COVID. I turned 40 during 2020. And so it was it kind of sucked because like, I mean, yeah, they people were kind of worried and we still got together. People acted like, oh, you shouldn't get together. I still had a pretty nice get together with my family and stuff like that, but I couldn't go out to a location. Everything was closed, and so it was a but anyway, she took over. She said, hey, this is what we're doing. She got me my favorite pizza, and it was good. Pizza is good. Maybe not good for you, but it is good. Let's see here. So yes, balance is the key. Balance is the key, Rusty. That's right. So basically, ultimately, when it comes to purpose, when it comes to things like that, oftentimes I look at how we live our lives whenever I'm thinking about, finding purpose. I think it's sometimes we are really like, I need to figure out my purpose. And I meet a lot of people 18 to 25 years old, right? Because I'm a university professor. I do 2 full-time jobs. Literally, this is not a part-time job for me. I think you guys realize that. But so on my other full-time job, I am a university professor, and a lot of people are like, and think about this. We do this to our young people. We say, hey, you're 18. Now figure out what you're going to do with the rest of your life right now. And it's not like a society just imposes it. It is literally, it's important. The earlier you can figure yourself out, the longer you have to work on those projects, and the longer you have to work on whatever it is you want to become. I'm not saying that there's something necessarily wrong with that mindset, but it is kind of a strange predicament that suddenly you have a person who really is just now arriving to the planet, 18 years old. You're just pretty much arriving. And now it's like, okay, what do you want to do for the rest of the, 100 years that you have here? If you're, as long as you don't have anything terrible happen. Or, average 80, what is it? About 80 years, So, so finding purpose, I think is really important. Now, for me, I think that ultimately, whenever it comes down to it, I think it's just like happiness. That there's a lot of research, well, not research. There's a lot of philosophers that talk about the idea of happiness, and they talk about how literally happiness is always the byproduct of something. It's never something you actually can produce. Enjoyment, for instance, it's generally a byproduct of something. Your happiness is something that happens as a result of something. It's not like it's just like, okay, I'm going to go do this, and it will make me happy. It's generally the byproduct of accomplishing a goal or reframing your mindset and saying, you know what, I'm so grateful for where I am and what I'm doing. And so finding purpose, I think, is a similar thing. So if a person's having a difficult time finding their life's purpose, I think ultimately it has more to do with listening and being open than anything else. And that's certainly how it's been with my life. It has to do with, are you showing up? Are you giving it 100%? Are you doing your best? If you're not showing up, if you're just, kind of expecting life to happen to you, good luck, because it's not going to happen to you in a way that, you might get lucky, but most likely you won't. But ultimately, as long as a person gets up every morning and does their best and is open to opportunities, if you would have talked to me, 10, 20 years ago and said, guess what, Jesse, you're going to go around the world and you're going to try to teach people how to breathe better, how to live better. I would have been like, you're crazy, but it just seemed to happen that way. Your purpose kind of finds you, in my opinion. And I think oftentimes we stress over it a little too much. And instead of focusing on the struggles that we're looking at now, and that comes back to the idea, the problem of purpose, the issues of problems. Like, it is important to, what's in front of me. Hey, Ian, I'm glad you're here too. So what is in front of me? What can I actually do something about? And let's be earnest and honest and genuine and face today with 100%. And if you do that every day, tomorrow, eventually, there's going to be a tomorrow that eventually happens where there's a door that wouldn't have been open had you not done that. So anyway, Ian, well, thank you, my friend. Ian says, Jesse, you bring me out of some bad places. Well, hey, brother, we all have bad places that sometimes creep up on us, but we get through this together. And that's also something that I think is really kind of cool that I'm observing. And I've talked about this before on the channel, is that there is a movement. And we're all different voices. Like there's some, and I'm, my voice is not someone else's voice. I'm very much, and this is where, sometimes people will disagree with me. Fine. I'm cool with that. I'm okay with that. We can still be friends and still disagree. In fact, I learn a lot whenever I hear from people that disagree with me on things. As long as everyone's is coming at it with good faith and with genuineness, that's how we grow. But yeah, I think there's a growing movement in the world. And for me, what I see and what I really hope people embrace is the responsibility, right? The responsibility we take for our own actions, our own feelings, our own thoughts. Are you doing your best? Are you being genuine? Are you being honest? I think that's another thing. So many of us are just not honest with ourselves. And the thing is, we lie. I don't know. Sometimes I think we lie to ourselves and we lie to the outside world about our intentions, our motives. We say things that are kind of like Hallmark cards, like I'm here to serve everyone. And it's like, well, I'm not really here to serve everyone. Maybe that's not what gets you up in the morning. Maybe you have a specific thing that you want to do. Maybe there's a specific motivator. That's okay. That's okay. Who says it has to be a certain, dogma, and so, or some kind of a, an ideology that has to dominate you. I think ultimately being honest with myself is that that's the one thing that I do struggle whenever it comes to being honest with myself sometimes, because sometimes when I'm honest with myself, I'm in conflict with the world. And I feel like that at that moment, though, is when we have to decide to either be ourselves or to be a copy of what the world wants us to be. And what that is ultimately, so I think it's so misunderstood. And as with everything, sadly enough, as with everything, the world wants to oversimplify everything because we don't really want to think. Being at odds with the world, being original, being your authentic self does not mean you're against the world. It may mean that, but it doesn't have to mean that. Hey, Samuel from Australia. Well, let's see here. Yeah, it's Saturday morning already. So that's right. So my web developer, he lives in Australia. And so we have to time our meetings whenever I first wake up or he's going to bed or vice versa. And it's always one of these weird things when we're on the phone. We'll be getting off the phone. I'll say, okay, have a great night. I mean, enjoy your day. So, hey, how's it going from down all the way down under? How's it going from the Midwest? We're happy to have you here, my friend. Let's see here. I'm going to take a quick minute to read some of these comments. I don't always get a chance. I see a lot of things going on here, and I just want to take a minute. Bear with me a second. So Ian, yeah, I feel my motives evolve through the practice of a craft or art. Well, that's kind of cool. My motives in dog training are nowhere close to where I started. They're totally different people. That's interesting. So our motives do change over time. And I think it's important to, and again, if you're a student of mine, for instance, if you're in the breath mastery courses that I do, or if you go to any of my retreats, especially my deeper retreats that are like the Jesse Coomer experience or the modern human condition experience, those, if you haven't heard of those yet, or the convergence, this year I'm going to be opening those up to the public. You're going to hear me say things like awareness is the foundation of all positive change. And I feel like, of course, that you can apply that to physical fitness, you can apply that to nutrition, you can apply that to breath work or cold training or heat training, anything. But I think we have to be aware and just at least be aware of where my thoughts are and be aware of what my motivations are. And then if those are in conflict of who we want to be, then we need to make some changes and we need to really think those things through. It's like, this is not the person I want to be. And then of course we have to think about, why is that not the person I want to be? And so it can turn into a metaphysical or an existential dilemma, but that's part of the human experience. Really, the human experience is an existential dilemma, right? I mean, let's just face it. Being a human being is an existential dilemma. When it comes to deciding who we are, you can either decide who you are, or you can let other people decide who you are, right? And I'm not going to sit here and tell you which is better, but I know which one I think is better. Being a copy is just being a copy, and I think it's harder. It's much harder to be really who we are. It's so much more easy to be it's so much more easy. It's easier to be a facsimile. Carl Jung, the famous psychoanalyst, psychologist, he one of his most famous quotes is that we are all born as individuals, but most of us die as facsimiles. Most of us die as copies. And that's just because ultimately, and this goes back to why we oversimplify things. We love to oversimplify things because thinking is hard. Critical thinking is hard. And it's so much, so critical thinking is different than taxonomy. Okay. So bear with me a second. John Lindsay, you're right. I'm not trying to be a sage today, but yeah, I hope, let's see. I hope, I'm glad you're here, John. And yeah, if you want to join the Patreon tribe, you're welcome there too. I don't know if you're in that or not, but yeah. So basically, when it comes down to it, though, we love to oversimplify things, but we love to categorize things, right? So what we do is oftentimes we will confuse taxonomy or categorization of things for critical thinking, and that's not necessarily the same thing. That you can do these things, but the critical thinking really does come down to sometimes soul searching, sometimes just trying to identify terms and really identify where these thoughts or emotions are coming from. And honestly, the hardest part of it is the honesty. Sometimes we have to just say, you know what, I know I'm not supposed to think this, but I'm going to allow myself to think this through. And why shouldn't I be allowed to at least think? I should at least be able to think this thing through. And of course, this is why I became a liberal arts professor. This sort of thing, I could go all day, and hell, I'm having such a good time. I might just. Papa Geek, I'm kind of wishing that the beer that you sent me was here already, so I could just have it right now and just go off. I'm no, I'm going to wait till my birthday. But here's the thing: when it comes down to it, it's this is all part of the human experience, right? And And we have to be willing to at least face the fact that there's a lot of gray areas. We prefer, it's so much easier for something to be good or bad. And this is one of the things I run into, like as a cold trainer or a breath worker or as a nutrition coach or as a personal trainer, all these physical things that I do. As a heat trainer, you name it. I'll have, like, whenever and the thing is, right now, I know I've had a lot of emails, especially once I became a nutrition coach. Right now, I can't take any more clients. I'm so sorry. I cannot take any more clients. But after the first year, I'm hoping I'll have some openings. We shall see. But when it comes to nutritional advice, a lot of times a person will say, is this good or bad? And for instance, I think we were talking about fats earlier, right? So are fats good or fats bad? And I would just love it if we could just say it's good or bad. But obviously, you can't do that. It always depends. And is vitamin C good? Well, is water good? Is water good? But did you know that you can kill yourself with water? You can not just drowning, but you can, if you drink too much of it, you die. If that's, over the course of a very short amount of time. People do it though. People die every year drinking water. So saying something is good or bad, it's convenient, right? And there are some things that are just good and evil, right? There are things that are just like, okay, torturing someone because you enjoy it. Obviously, that right there, I can see that's pretty much, we can agree that that's going to be a bad thing. Or, there are certain things that we can categorize. But why are we so worried about categorizing these things? Why can't we just think these things through and determine, like, how we're going to use them within our life, as opposed to just like, should I put it in this category or should I put it in this category? I think we think too much on categorization and sorting things out, and too little on utilization and ultimately our overall motivation behind our actions and our thoughts and our words. So anyway, that's a little bit there. I'll see if there's anything else in here. Let's see here. Yeah, critical thinking is hard, V. Thomas. Practical demonstration is much harder. Practical demonstration of a lot of things. Actually, I guess the classic thing in the humanities was always, there would be all these logic things where it's like, the classic thing is there anything that's, of course, we commonly say easier said than done, but is there anything easier done than said? I remember I felt pretty clever one time. Because think about that. Is there anything that's easier done than said? And so my answer to that was onomatopoeia. Right? So onomatopoeia is a word that it's one of my favorite English words. Onomatopoeia is whenever you make the sound of something. So, for instance, like a or right. I'm doing onomatopoeia, right? So it's easier to do that than to say it. And so I don't even know. I felt really clever when I said it. And there were girls in the class. This was when I was a freshman in college that were impressed. So I felt like, yes, I'm. Yeah, that's what I thought. Hey, cold addict, I'm with you, my friend. Boom, bang, exactly. Onomatopoeia. There it is. And I think it's easier to it's easier to do some of these things than it is to say them, especially if you say the word onomatopoeia. That's kind of a difficult thing to say. Oh, man. Yes. Welcome to the tribe. John, you're in North Dakota. I'm planning to hoping to go up to Minnesota in the next year. I would love to go up to the Dakotas. I've never been to those states, either one. I've never seen, where is it? Mount Rushmore. I've never seen that in my life. I'd like to go out and see that. And of course, if some workshops or retreats take me out there, that's always even better. So, hey, maybe if you know of a place, let me know. Let's see. Let's see. Samuel John says, stinking thinking, let the thoughts just flow and hang on to the good ones. There you go. I mean, hang on to the good ones, but also acknowledge. I think it's important. And I know I'm not disagreeing with you there, my friend. I'm just kind of elaborating and just kind of freestyling, I guess, off of this. I think it's really important to acknowledge our thoughts, no matter how we designate them, right? Whether or not they're good or bad. Why did I have that thought? What is that thought maybe saying to me? And maybe this comes back to Jung again. Carl Jung talks about, any tree that reaches to heaven has roots that reach to hell, right? And there's a dark side of our souls, or a dark side of our person. I don't care what you believe. There's a dark side to our psyche, if you will, that you're never really going to eliminate. We can talk about it, we can pretend all we want to, but there's ultimately a part of ourselves that we have to at least acknowledge. And I think so often what we see is people suppressing those things, suppressing the parts of themselves. They're like, oh, that's bad. That's bad. I shouldn't think that way. I shouldn't have had that thought. And therefore I'm going to bottle this up. I'm not going to deal with it. I'm not going to acknowledge it. And I'm ashamed of myself for having these thoughts. And for me, I get that. I understand that. But I think it's more valuable to at least acknowledge those thoughts, process them, maybe even, just genuinely understand that there will always be, there's always going to be a dark side. There's always going to be a darkness within us that we still will have. And to at least, fully know who we are, to fully know ourselves, we have to authentically choose to engage with ourselves in that way. So in that way, and again, I see what you're saying there, my friend. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that just in addition to that particular thought, it just made me think, oftentimes we want to categorize, we want to do taxonomy, and we don't want to do critical thought or awareness with authenticity. And oftentimes and I see this with myself, and I see this with a lot of my friends, that is, we become ashamed of who we are. And I think there's been research done on like PTSD and things that people do in times of war, in times of struggle. And we are just abhorred by, what did I just do? What did I just say? And I think we all know this, right? We've all, even if you've not done something that's like blood curdlingly crazy, right? I think we've all said or done things that we're not proud of, or that we're like, how did I even, man, I was a total asshole, and man, I am number one. Whenever I put my hand up, if I look back, man, especially when I was in a band, I don't know what it was. When I was in actually, it was a pretty sweet rock band. Sometime on this channel, if somebody reminds me, I'll post some of the recordings. Recently, one of my bandmates, it was back in the year 2005, 2003, 2005. Yes, that's how old I am. Just quit it. That's whenever I was in my rock and roll prime. It was also a lot of drug and alcohol fueled rocking shows. But yeah, they found a hard drive with some of our recordings, and I was the vocalist for my group. And I look back and I'm like, man, I was kind of an asshole some of those times. And and I think it's important to at least acknowledge some of these things. And if we don't, and I think it's important to acknowledge, I have an asshole in me. All of us do. And we want to believe that there's bad people and good people, right? We want to believe that, oh, I'm a good person, or that person is a bad person, right? As if it's just like, well, that's just, there is no cell in your body that's good, or no cell in your body that's bad. I don't remember I don't remember all the details, but there was this one guy who, like, I forget, like he got in a drunk driving accident, killed a bunch of people, and then, okay, so that's a bad person, right? And then we just throw these people away, and it's like, well, it was a bad thing you did, right? Yeah, I mean, let's not mix words, but I think later on the guy he died saving a school bus full of kids from drowning or something. Like, he kind of, and the thing is, we want to make it seem like, well, those two things equal out. Well, we don't know the fullness of, and every human has the capacity to be a great person, good and evil, right? We have it within us. And that's why I think it's important to be authentic and to really acknowledge these things. So good points there, Samuel. Not be ignorant. Just really just to be aware and just, explore those things without judgment. And with at least the good faith of knowing that, well, just pondering these things, thinking things through is not tantamount to doing, some kind of physical violence or something. No, I'm going to actually think these things through. What is it about the human experience that I can learn? Because I'm a human being, other human beings. I think sometimes I'll talk to, especially at retreats. Okay. And at retreats, we go deep into our emotional states. We allow ourselves to be vulnerable. And I invite you I'll be announcing my 2022 retreats soon. I invite everybody to come to one of these because we talk about being vulnerable. And it's when we are vulnerable, it's not just about, hey, I have some kind of a scar that I need to share with the group. There's plenty of that. But it's also, hey, I'm struggling with with the reasons why I want what I want, or I'm struggling with my motivations because I don't think I'm actually a very good person because I have these issues where, I know I tell people that the reason why I do what I'm doing is because of family, friends, and community. But in reality, it's because, of these other things. And so many of us get hung up on it, on that, and we decide I'm a bad person. And we make things that are just things into right and wrong. We make these things wrong that are they just are. And just existing is a beautiful, wonderful, splendid thing. And we don't always have to make everything right or wrong. It just is. So anyway, let's see. Cold Addict. Let's see here. He says, I love the name Cold Addict. As humans, we're not born as a bad person. Absolutely. Let's see. Over certain conditions throughout our lives, we have parts that are made up. Angry parts, addicted parts, bad parts, happy parts, good parts, serving parts. I mean, it comes down to, a lot of things, right? And many of you guys know I've had the pleasure of, and I still have the pleasure of working with very, very educated scientists. And one of the neuroscientists that I work with, he helped me with my book in understanding a lot of the psychology in breathwork, how our breathing affects really our central nervous system, and especially functions, like how it really top down control how all that works. We were talking about one day, because I love calling this guy up. We try to get together every other month or so, and we just talk. And I could talk to this guy all day, and we go on and on forever. But we were talking about personality and why a person has a personality and what is behind that personality. And of course, there's all kinds of explanations to that, right? And so if you talk to the existential philosophers, if you talk to a lot of it is, okay, is it a choice that I've become this person? And of course, oftentimes scientists will say that our personality comes out of our psyche's decisions to behave in ways that are most likely to allow us to survive. So there are survival mechanisms and again, I'm not saying this is true. I'm just saying that's one of the purviews of psychology and evolutionary biologists is it has to do with our personality literally is a survival mechanism. So, like for instance, sense of humor, disposition, whether you're a talker or whether you're more reserved, and of course, it would be about how these things are how at least we perceive our ability to survive and how that is affected by what we have constructed as our personality. It's fascinating to me to see it and to really think. I've got a son, and I'm watching his personality develop. And I don't know how many details I've talked to you guys about this, but I am not going to go in great detail. But I just wonder, of course, there's the, is it as a person, how does this stuff work? And of course, I think it does have a lot to do with your environment, your influences. And it's one of those things where I think it has very little to do with you're just born bad, right? So like if you think of all the worst people in history and all the best people in history, I think it has more to do with their environment, with the people, their influences. I think it has a lot more to do with that than it has to do with you're just born bad. But it also has to do with the fact that all of us have that darkness within us that, if put into the certain circumstances, can ultimately lead us to do whatever we become. And so what I try to do at the retreats is using breath work, specifically styles of work that help us break through a lot of the masks and a lot of the barriers and a lot of the things that we don't even they're not just walls that and barriers we put up for the outside world. They are walls that we put up so that we don't have to think about things anymore. It's like, well, I've solved this problem. It's done. This is who I am. This is what I am. Done. Boom. And we don't want to think about it anymore. And so a lot of what we do at the retreats is we use different modalities. And of course, my main modality is breath work, right? So I'm going to put people into a certain state through certain techniques. Or maybe I'll put you in a situation within nature, heat, or maybe some kind of a natural exposure to, some kind of an intense exercise. And then we go into a meditation or something like that, basically breaking out of your normal states in order to challenge these things so that we can kind of open up and say, okay, I shouldn't be judging myself so harshly. But I also should be thinking about myself in different, why have I made these things wrong about myself? And so there's a lot more that goes into it, but anyway, guys, let's see. I'm going to read a few more things. If you guys have questions about breath work, about cold exposure, about the philosophy of life, anything we've been talking about today, please put them down there below. I'll be closing this up in about 5 minutes, as I have gone a little bit longer than I typically go, but I'm just having so much fun. And I really appreciate your comments here today, because this is the kind of stuff that, a lot of my channel is about breath work. It's about, health, lifespan, biohacking and things like that. But ultimately, there's got to be some kind of, my explanation behind what I think is we experience all of life through the body, right? We experience it through the body. All experience is filtered that way, right? And so if you have a headache, someone walking in the door and slamming the door, you're going to perceive it differently than if you are in a great mood and they walk in the door and they slam the door, right? Everything is filtered through our physical experience. But we have to understand that our human experience is far more than just that as well. Let's see here. All right, let's see. How do I organize a retreat in Southern Utah with both you and Ryan Bean? Dude, yes. Ryan Bean leading the pack. That would be epic retreat. Well, hey, we would be happy to do it. Ryan Bean is a fantastic guy. And I would love to do that. what we would need to organize a retreat. Typically, what we want to do is basically we just need a venue. And so then so if you find a venue, you can go ahead and email me. You can go to my website, jessecoomer.com. And if you find a venue, if you have a venue that you know of, or maybe you own a venue, you can let me know. Ultimately, it's we need the right places. Also, if you know of a place, maybe you don't have any networking or any in to this place, but you'd like us to do something in a certain area, I have some people that will find places for us, and they'll find venues, and then we can set something up. Ryan Bean is a guy that I do plan to work with a lot in the future, and so he is, So you'll be seeing he and I quite a bit, and he's out in Utah. So I'll be coming out to Utah probably probably in 2022. I'll probably be coming out there, and then I would imagine that I'll be that'll be one of my regular stops on my way around. And yes, Vermont, Rusty, I will be coming to Vermont. I mean, all I need is the space and the invitation. If you know of a gym owner for workshops, retreats, generally I'm looking for a place where I can have 20 to 30 people. And some place that's a nice natural environment where we're kind of set apart from the cities. Okay. So that's kind of what I'm looking for there. All right, let's see here. Let's see. Samuel John says, how long to stay in an ice bath? 15 minutes. Well, you just answered your own question. I'm teasing. It all depends, Samuel. So this is why I wrote the ebook, A Practical Guide to Cold Training. You can find it on my website. It covers everything. So it's one of those things where I understand this question, but you have to understand there's no one size fits all to ice bathing, and one ice bath is not equal to the other ones. So I wasn't trying to be too much of a smart ass, my friend, but yeah. So basically it all depends on the ice bath. It depends on you. And so my ebook, A Practical Guide to Cold Training, it's on my website. And I take you from your very first cold shower to ice bathing, to swimming in like freezing Arctic waters, to walking barefoot on the snow. And I cover how to train to get into those states, how to get into those training environments. And then ultimately I kind of give you a training schedule, how to work that, because it's more than just, hey, this ice bath is you stay in an ice bath this long. So for some people, you're going to want to stay in an ice bath 15 minutes, but that would be a different temperature than maybe if it was colder, you'd only want to stay in it for, a minute, maybe 2 minutes. And so I cover a lot of that in the book. And whenever I update the book, it's on its second edition right now. When I update the ebook, you will get a free copy. Basically, you'll get the file update automatically to the third edition. So it's a book that I continue to add to. I meant to publish it this year in book form, but I still have more things I want to add to it. So I'm not going to do that just yet. But whenever you get an ebook form, you'll get the automatic update whenever I update it. I want to be shoved in Lake Champlain, Rusty. I would appreciate a good shove into Lake Champlain. Let's see. Cold Addict. You got a great venue. Awesome. Well, let's do it. Yeah. Send me an email, and we can make it happen. We can do a lot of different styles of retreats. I'm about an hour and a half into this podcast. So what I'm going to be getting into a new, what I believe is going to be the biggest thing in breathwork. And I'm about to get into something that's going to happen starting next year in 2022, when we talk about the philosophy of happiness, the skill of happiness, the philosophy of life, and how breathwork works into all of that. Big things are going to come. And I think I would love to put and this is perfect for retreats because it takes a little time to learn this skill. So we've got that. And of course, you can do the Jesse Coomer experience, we can do Wim Hof, we can do anything. So I would love that. That would be cool. Okay, guys, let's see here. I think that's all the question marks that I see. And Mandy, nice to have you here. Much love to you as well. Guys, thanks so much for being here. Don't forget, the Patreon club is available. It's only $5 for the basic tier. That gets you access to my full catalog of breathing, of guided breathwork sessions a year in advance, a year before anybody else gets it. And of course, even whenever everybody else gets it, you still have it without any commercial, any other cuts added to the beginning or the end. You also get access to a monthly guided breathwork session just for club members. And coming in 2022, if you're in the $25 tier, you'll be invited to a monthly Q&A session where everybody that's in that tier gets to ask me any questions they like. It'll be a lot like this, only it'll be Zoom, so you can actually speak to me as well. And we'll do that every month for 1 hour, and I'll explain as much as I can explain within that hour amount of time. Guys, I want to thank you all for being here. Please like, subscribe. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so. Share videos. Please, help the algorithm and all that other good stuff. Most importantly, though, remember to go out there and be kind to one another. All right, guys, have a great weekend. I'll see you next week.